What's up, YouTubers? So before we get started with this video, on Get Up, I think we're talking about how will Lamar Jackson look if he loses another playoff game. So let's see what they have to say about that.
Jeff Saturday, you're the perfect person to come to because you have a young star quarterback who's done great things in the regular season, had no playoff success. That is the story of Lamar Jackson. But I remember when it was the story of Peyton Manning, and you were there. Can you
Yep, I remember that story too.
describe the pressure that was on Peyton when he was 0-3 in his playoff career?
Absolutely brutal, Greeny. I mean, listen, every question, every question from every reporter is going to be based around Lamar Jackson. It's like the other 21 starters don't even get considered. And you just had a stat that when they played him last year, Derrick Henry runs for 200 yards. I don't think Lamar Jackson plays defense. I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. At the bottom line, though, is every question, every answer is going to be given is going to be about Lamar Jackson. How is this his fault? What can he do to be better? All of these different things. At the end of the day, playoff football is team football. It's not just about one quarterback. So too much emphasis on Lamar Jackson. This football team cannot be focused on one player. Everybody's got to pull their weight to beat the Titans this weekend.
So I completely agree with Jeff Saturday. He's right. Actually, the whole team of the Baltimore Ravens screwed up together as a unit. The defense gave up, let Derrick Henry run for 200 plus yards, like Jeff Saturday just said. And I do believe Lamar Jackson threw 2 interceptions, and it was just a bad production for the Baltimore Ravens last year. They just got beat up because everybody was messing up. And as far as Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to win this game. He's going to ball out this year or this in the playoffs. He's going to take care of business so he can get that monkey off his back, just like what Peyton Manning had when he couldn't get his first playoff win for years.
The video you were seeing was Peyton's third playoff loss, 41-0 at the Jets. He didn't win his first playoff game until he was 27 years old. Lamar is obviously a lot younger than that. Marcus, what do you expect from Lamar Jackson?
I expect Lamar Jackson to ball. I think this season kind of grew up these guys. If you think about it, fellas, like Lamar has been on kind of a magical fairy tale ride. Not only because of his performance, but because of the success of the team. And maybe that doesn't play well with young guys going into the playoffs. I think this season in particular for Lamar Jackson has really been his grow-up season, his coming out season. Yeah, he was the MVP, and people say, Marcus, you crazy. But no, adversity hits different. It lets you figure a lot of things out. A lot of the talk about the offense, some of the losses down the road, and then they needed to win out in order to even get into the playoffs. So I think this is going to bode well not only for Lamar, but for the Baltimore Ravens as a whole. But when you think about him, particularly, solely as the quarterback of this team, the fact that he had to go fight in Cleveland, the fact that he had to go undefeated leading into this playoffs, you cannot tell me that that won't serve him better than the previous 2 years have served them in the playoffs. So I expect him to play well. I expect him to keep that same type of energy he's had for the last month of the season. And I think the expectation for the Baltimore Ravens within their building is for them to make a deep playoff run and potentially get to the Super Bowl based off Lamar and this run game and that defense.
It's a point.
So I agree with Marcus Spears too. Adversity, definitely, you can learn a lot from adversity and things going wrong. And I think the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, definitely learned from that this year. And another note from last year when they got beat up by the Titans, I think the game plan was kind of messed up. It was kind of uneven. Because if I remember correctly, I think Lamar Jackson threw the rock like 40 or 50 times or something. Some crazy number. I think they were trying to show and prove that Lamar Jackson can throw the rock first and then run, which I already knew what he could do with throwing the rock, because I think last year he led the league in passing touchdowns or something. So there was no need to really prove that he can throw the rock, because you already know he can. But I think there was a huge emphasis on him throwing the rock, and then the product of that, he threw 2 interceptions. The defense was playing like trash. So I think as a whole, they're going to do better this year because they're going to come up with a better game plan. And they're just going to take care of business. So I definitely think the Baltimore Ravens are going to beat the Tennessee Titans. It's just if that defense, if they can stack that box and shut down Derrick Henry, which is going to be a tall order, but it can be done. So I don't know. Let's continue.
Really well taken. Last year was a year where everything went right for Lamar Jackson. This year, I think, was a year where pretty much everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Maybe that does make you sharper when the playoffs come. Dan, you were with that team this past weekend. What were you hearing?
Yeah, I talked to Mark Andrews, their tight end, about the differences, and he actually said, we feel like we're more battle-hardened this time around. Obviously, you'd like to be 14-2 in the 1 seed every year, but part of the benefit of having to fight your way in is maybe you have learned some of those lessons. So, and after the game, we interviewed J.K. Dobbins, and he's a rookie, but I asked him, what are they saying about last year? And he said, we don't want to be one and done. So obviously, this is a team with a significant mentality about what happened last year and what they want to do this year. The good thing for them, the Tennessee Titans played no defense whatsoever. We were looking over the last 15 years, they're the second worst playoff